So many of us, we think there's something wrong with us.
Who they say they are on screen or, on a podcast or in their business and who they actually are is two very different things.
I didn't see my own needs, and I thought being successful meant being Disha on demand, endlessly capable, endlessly understanding, endlessly available.
Just because you've outgrown things, it doesn't mean there's not still a purpose in your life.
What I find with female founders is they don't think big enough because they get to that point of, do I continue with my dream or do I kill it?
What is the hill that you would die on when it comes to female founders? Welcome to the Trailblazers, the space where high-achieving women finally exhale and feel deeply understood.
We are Brittany Anderson and Disha Solanki, two leaders who have built, scaled, exited, and supported multi-8 and 9-figure companies
while carrying far more than most people ever see.
Here we go where most conversations stop.
The burnout, the pressure, the ambition, the identity shifts, the invisible load, and the moments you almost quit.
This is where the real story begins.
Trailblazers.
Today's guest is someone who doesn't just walk into a room, she changes the entire temperature of it. And here's what I mean. Disha is one of the rare humans who sees people before they even say a word. She has like this quiet, grounded presence that makes you feel instantly understood, and a mind that can unpack the deepest layers of who you are without ever making you feel exposed. She's a strategist, she's a truth teller, and one of the most emotionally intelligent leaders that I personally have ever met. But what I love most about her is that she leads with kindness, with curiosity, and with an unwavering commitment to helping people feel seen in a world that often moves way too fast to notice. So if you have ever wished someone could hand you the exact language for what you're feeling or help you make sense of the things that you can't quite articulate, Disha is that person. And today we get to learn from the way she thinks, the way she holds space, and the way that she invites women to rise without losing themselves in the process. Disha, I can't wait to talk more about you today.
Oh, thank you for the lovely intro, Brittany. Much appreciated.
And for those that don't know Disha personally, our listeners, know that she is not typically somebody who steps and grabs the spotlight. So this is like my favorite thing that she gets to take it. Disha, my first question for you, like who were you before being, Disha the strategic genius or Disha the, amazing leader? What did younger you believe about success?
I believe that I thought success was when I held everything together. I was the one who felt like I could read the room, connect the dots, anticipate what people needed before they actually said anything. I didn't have a language for strategy back then, but I did genuinely believe if I could understand everything and everyone and make it all make sense, then we'd all be okay. And younger me did actually believe that success was very much an all or nothing kind of thing. Don't drop any balls, don't need too much, don't make a fuss, always be the one that people can rely on. And success was therefore me being the responsible one, the prepared one, the one with all the answers. And it wasn't about what I wanted or what do I want? It was more about how do I contribute? How can I be useful? Make sure I didn't disappoint anyone. And because my brain had always been wired for making sense of things, I equated success with being 3 steps ahead, whether that be emotionally, financially, or practically. And if I could foresee the problem and solve it before it exploded, that really did feel like safety. But on the other side of that, I didn't see my own needs. And I thought being successful meant being Disha on demand, endlessly capable, endlessly understanding, endlessly available, and very rarely asking for that in return, I would say. I was a quiet girl, which I probably still am, a quiet woman with a big mind and a big heart. And what I'm working on now, I guess, is updating me and my mindset, what my definition of success is, from I hold everything and everyone to I'm allowed to build big things and be supported, nourished, and human while I do it.
Well, first of all, there's so much I think that in what you shared that could be
Mhm.
unpacked, and so many women, I think all across the world that have been that person that has to have it all together and carry it all and have all the answers and be that call it structure almost that people can lean on. So, along with that, I'm a big believer that people can find the biggest nuggets or the biggest opportunity in others' challenges and their stories. So, what was a defining challenge for you that maybe happened early on in your life that helped shape how you operate today?
I am the daughter of immigrants, and that is a story where you're constantly moving between two very different worlds. And I would say that I'm very reluctant to share that story because I feel like it's a very normal story. It's a normal story of many British Indians or many immigrants for that matter. And at home, there was us, our culture, our way of doing things. And outside, there was them, which is school, society, the rules about what success look like or should look like, and then what the rules of success actually are at home, right? And there was a feeling of where do I actually belong? And I felt like I was always really slightly editing myself depending on what scenario I was in. And I'm sure that is true of many, many people. So I wasn't really fully myself at any point in time. And I also felt like I wasn't fully understood by the people that I loved the most. And that's shaped how I really operate today. I naturally read dynamics, translate complexity, and build bridges between very different realities because I grew up with two very different realities too. And it's why I'm so obsessed with helping high achieving women create lives and businesses that work in their world, not just the way we're told to fit into it, because everybody's their world is different. And your story is allowed to matter, even if it's a common one, I've come to realize. And your load is allowed to be acknowledged, even if you've survived it for years. Just because you feel like it's normalized doesn't mean it's normalized. And there's lots of other people out there who want to hear your story so they feel heard themselves and seen.
It makes me wonder, Disha, with what you shared there. And, even that perspective of growing up with immigrant parents and feeling like, oh, my story is not special or unique. I mean, every time we talk and we go, even deeper layers, I learn something new. And I can't imagine carrying that thought. But knowing like what you just shared there, I think is so meaningful and so impactful for so many people across the world to hear and to acknowledge, right? And to help people feel seen and heard. So, through that, I would imagine at some point in time, there was a realization or call it a spark or a moment where you realized that maybe that background and what you were brought up with, that your brain worked in a way that it could actually change people's lives, truly. So, was there that spark or was there that moment that you're like, wait a second, I can actually put all of this to really good use for people?
I realized this probably when I started noticing what was happening in people, not just in their businesses, right? I would see a path really clearly ahead of me. And when I relayed my thoughts and the path that I could see so clearly, I could literally see a physical shift in the women that I was speaking to. It's almost like a light bulb lit up in them. And I started noticing this over and over again. And that's what got me thinking that I don't just love strategy, it's an innate ability for me to turn that complexity or chaos or whatever it might be going on into clarity in a way that gives people themselves back. And for women mainly, it's for those who've been holding everything together for everyone else. And it's not just helpful to be able to see a path forward for them and a clear one, it's life changing. And it's only when I started noticing this over and over again that I thought, you know what? I seem to have an ability that lots don't have.
I would say there's more than one ability you have that a lot of don't have. And I think it is amazing to me because, when you and I first met Disha, you really were like when we talk about how Disha shows up, this for our listeners, like how Disha shows up, she like quietly enters a space, but there's just this calming effect. And it's this immediate feeling, and you can't help but feel safe and seen and heard and all of these things. And I think it's because you've been so tuned into people for so many years and really probably throughout your whole entire life, going back very, very far. So, with that, and with that quiet reserve, what can come with it is playing small, right? And kind of just letting others have the spotlight and sitting back and kind of letting the world happen around you. So, what was a turning point for you? Because I know you don't play small anymore and you impact so many lives. And I've been so lucky to be alongside you while you do that. So, what was that turning point? When did you stop playing small? And maybe there was a point where you were kind of forced to not have any other option than to stop playing small.
I think that when your ambitions are so big, you do get to that point where you're forced to play small, forced to get out of the small mindset, is what I should say. And the turning point for me was when the gap between what I was doing and what I was publicly owning got too big. And I needed to come out of hiding. And, as an introvert and as a quiet person, it's very comfortable to be in hiding, right? And be in the shadows and be in the background. But I was holding serious businesses with big numbers, deep emotional work, and still packaging it in this low key, non threatening version of myself. So I didn't offend anybody, right? And I realized that my shrinking actually wasn't humility, it was self protection. It was uncomfortable to be in a space where I felt exposed. And I think the conclusion I came to eventually, I will say, Brittany, is I felt like it was a disservice to women looking for proof that they're allowed to take up space. And so I chose in the end honesty over comfort, not because I didn't want to go out, but because I thought if I'm just honest with who I am, I'll set a precedent for other women too. And I started letting the full weight of what I do be seen, even if not everybody liked it. And not everybody does like it. I have been accused many times of changing or comments like, look at the person I am today compared to who I was. But at my core, I'm the same human being. But what's really happened is that I've begun to own who I am. And that's not going to sit well with everybody. And that's okay.
Yes. And I think it goes to say, as you evolve, I was speaking to a woman not too terribly long ago who has had like incredible success that people can hardly even fathom. And we were talking about friendships and how they evolve over the years and how as you change and you grow, like sometimes there's things that don't maybe carry forward into your life. And she had such a great approach to this. She was saying how I have friends that, come from my younger years that maybe I grew up with or I, spent my teens or my 20s or whatever with. And
Yeah.
she's like, I just know that when I'm spending time with them, it serves this aspect of me and I serve a certain aspect to them. And then there's the people that I put myself around when I'm in growth mode and I'm, trying to expand and go beyond, but it doesn't take anything away from the relationships along the way. And I was like, wow, that is such a great way to say it, that just because you've outgrown things, it doesn't mean there's not still a purpose in your life. It just means that maybe it doesn't serve where you're going or where you're headed or whatever. And I just thought that was so beautiful how she said it. So one of the things that not everybody knows is Disha is stinking hilarious. Like literally, we have laughed until we cried, until our bellies hurt because she is so quippy and so funny and just pops off with the craziest things. Sometimes we're like, you were like secretly hilarious. So I want to know, what is something people always assume about you, but it's like hilariously wrong?
For some reason, people seem to think I can sing. Karaoke is worst nightmare, if I was totally honest. I cannot sing for love nor money. I'm tone deaf, as everybody says. But I do love singing in the house, but it's god awful. And I have no idea why anyone can think that I can sing, but apparently it's a real thing. People think I can sing. They're shocked, like, Dish, you can't sing. Like, no, I can't sing.
Okay, so next time we are out and about together, we got to find a karaoke bar because we're going to break through this barrier.
Then we will need someone for that, Brittany. You should
Okay, fair. Okay, so along the lines of funny, there's so many moments in entrepreneurial life or just life in general where you're like, what just happened? So I want to know your funniest like strategic entrepreneur logic meets real life absurdity story.
Okay, so I'm not one that usually lives in the weeds, right? I can't handle like all the minutiae of anything unless I really have to, and it's stretching me quite a lot when I do that, right? But I am banned in our home from wearing a health and fitness wearable. And it doesn't help that I broke my own ring, a very well known ring, accidentally, we might add, and no one could see that. I borrowed my husband's fitness watch, which he duly took off me because you give me a watch or anything with data, and for some reason, even though I don't live in the weeds, my brain immediately turns my body into some performance dashboard. Steps, sleep score, heart rate, very. I'm not just going for a walk, I'm optimizing my metrics of driving everybody to insanity and beyond. And I'll be honest with you, it got to the point where I was giving my family like mini daily reports at dinner, right? I'm down. I didn't sleep well. What was my step count at dinner? I have to go out. And they were like, could we just eat, do you think, and not attend a performance review? And I was like, okay. So now what I have to do is something really radical. You'll be shocked by this. I have to move my body and I have to not get a report about it. And I'm not allowed to report to anybody either, by the way. So the only thing I have is a step counter on my phone. That's it. That doesn't tell me anything. So that's useless to me already.
So I find this so hilarious because, I mean, okay, let's be real. Like when we are working with people, whether it's businesses and teams or it's
Mhm.
our Trailblazers community, like whatever that looks like, you do have this obsession with making sure that the numbers make sense. It goes back, you use the word make sense so often. And you have an obsession with that, which is what makes you so great at what you do. I find it so funny that it applies to the health, and now I feel like I want you to tell me what your statistics are, so I feel like we need to get you a wearable again because I need to know.
Oh, and I agree with you. It's my birthday, not too far away, and I have asked for a wearable, not one that I can see 24/7. I have to log on to an app and all those types of things. I don't think I'm getting it, by the way. I don't. I've requested.
I feel like I need to call your husband and have a conversation. Let her have her data back. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. So, Disha, I think about, we kind of touched on where you came from and the journey and some of the humor along the way and all those things. So now, like thinking about where you're going and what fuels you and what moves you forward and gets you excited about the future.
Mhm.
What season of life are you in right now? And what message is really just it's screaming at you? It's coming through loud and clear.
I'm at the point where I'm going to show up as me and I'm good enough. So, you know what? I talk about this a lot, but I talk about it a lot for good reason because I have to sell myself the same story, right? So, 2026 is my year where I just show up as me. And I don't like to say just, but I'm good enough wherever I show up. And that is just me. And that's what the season of life I'm in right now. And I do feel like it's a message that is running loud and clear for me because I want to make that impact on other women and the communities that I serve too. And I have to show up exactly how I preach, is the way that I see it, right? So that's where I am right now.
I think you bring up a really good point, Disha, about, showing up exactly as you preach, because I think that maybe women in particular, I don't want to blanket this, but I'm going to say this statement is that I think we can sniff out when people are incongruent, right? Like it becomes super, super obvious really quickly where you're like who they say they are on screen or, on a podcast or in their business and who they actually are is two very different things. And I think that's something that is not sustainable and it will catch up with you because if you wear kind of two different personality hats, that
Yep.
makes life real confusing and really hard to keep track of. So, in the last episode, Disha, you asked me a question about, you know, just the things that, like, what are you filtering? What are you focusing on? I can't remember the exact question, but we talked about saying no.
Mm.
So, I would be curious, what are you actively saying no to right now in order to truly protect your genius?
I'm saying no to toxic relationships right now.
Mhm.
I do feel that as women, we are, and I'll talk for myself in particular, that I'm very good at collecting toxic relationships, it seems. We don't show up as ourselves. We want to people please. There is that element in us too. We don't say no. And we don't want anyone to feel like they're not within the realms of our arms, so to speak, right? Or our circle. And that's really at the detriment to me or ourselves. So I'm really working hard and protecting my genius by saying no to toxic relationships or walking away from them in the most congruent way with me that I can. Kindest way is what I would say.
Yeah, and I think along the way, we've both been asked about like, well, how do you even know if a relationship is toxic? Or how do you know if it's harmful? Like, is it really just a personality quirk? And I think, when you start to take that really deep look at how do you feel, like your nervous system, and I've read a lot about this in the last, call it couple years. Like when your nervous system feels unsettled and uneasy, like it picks up on things. And I won't go woo woo here, but energy is a real thing. Like you can feel energy. The best way that somebody ever explained it to me was like when you get excited or, you know, you feel supercharged on something and you get like the goosebumps, the chicken skin, the whatever you want to call it. That is energy that is transferring. And so, like, would you add anything else there about how do you identify like what's actually toxic to you versus maybe something that just makes you uncomfortable or a personality rub or whatever? What advice would you give as to how you identify that?
For me, it does definitely go back down to how did that make me feel?
Mhm.
And there's a lot to be said for gut feelings. I realize, I think sometimes it's with retrospects that you look back and go, that always felt off, or what was that about? Or, you start asking yourself those questions. And then you also start going down the road of what did I do wrong? Did I deserve that? And I think that those conversations just have to come to an end. So when I have those thoughts or those questions going round in my head, because I'm very much a questioning person, right? And how much of it can I own? I realize you can't own everything and you can't own other people's behavior. And the minute I start asking those questions, that's the minute I start knowing that they're toxic relationship signs for me.
I think along the lines of introspection, I think that sometimes, you talk about the questioning and the uncertainty or whatever. So, what do you think ambitious women misunderstand about themselves on that layer of introspection?
So many of us, I do secretly believe, think that we think there's something wrong with us. We think there's something wrong with us because we want more, because we're not satisfied, because we can hold so much and still feel like, it's not enough and you feel bad for that. And what I see time and time again is this: we or she thinks her ambition is a problem to fix instead of a signal of that's why you're here and this is what you need to do and what you need to be. And you mistake being tired for being broken. And then you look at all the plates that you're juggling and assume if I were really as successful as people think, would this feel easier? And I don't know, ambitious women also underestimate the value of their inner world. You know, strategy gets celebrated, numbers get celebrated, but the invisible work and the emotional labor that we do and the constant future planning, the mental load of the fact that everyone relies on you, it just gets discounted. And you just think, well, that's just what I do, right? And you kind of brush yourself down, get up and just carry on. And you don't realize that your capacity is not average. And maybe the biggest misunderstanding is that she thinks that she has to choose. So you have to choose to be a great mom or an influential leader. You have to choose to be soft or strong, grateful or wanting more. When actually, your real power is when you can do both. You're a great mother and you're a great businesswoman, right? You're soft and strong at the same time. You're grateful but still wanting more because that means that you're enjoying the journey. You're being present, not living in the future, not living in the past. I don't think ambitious women are too much. I think that we've been conditioned to shrink and we've forgotten how incredible it is that we've built everything that we have. And we did it with far less support than we probably deserved, if we were honest about that. There is nothing wrong with you or your ambition, is what I would say. It's not a character flaw. There is something wrong with the level of support that you have been given, and that then has been normalized. And it's not normal to do what we do and not have the support to go with it.
First of all, I'm sitting here soaking all that in, going, oh, it's like she just knows when I need to hear something too. So, I think about that whole thing with our ability and our capacity might be different and thinking there's something wrong with us. Like, I think back so many times in my life where I was like, what is wrong with me? Like, it's never enough, right? And not in a sense of,
Mm,
physical or material things or even money. It's
yeah.
just, it's contribution. It's, my husband's given me grief so many times over the years where he's like, Brittany, like, you're exhausted, but you're your own worst enemy. We were at a point, what was it, last year where I was just like, oh my gosh, like, we're in a total state of overwhelm. There's so much going on. So what do? We bought another business. And I was like, what is happening here? Like, this is crazy. So I think what you said there, when you talk about capacity and you talk about ambition and, all the things that are interwoven there, and understanding that, you know, it's okay to operate different, and there's no wrong and there's no right and all those things, and really helping women listening feel seen and heard in that. I think everything you just said there was so powerful. So if you could give one piece of advice to the woman who's exhausted, yet she's still dreaming, she's still pursuing, what
Mhm.
would that piece of advice be?
I would say stop trying to build your next level from the version of you that's already running on empty. Exhaustion is not a personal failure. It's a feedback mechanism, is how I would see it. It's your body and your life saying, the way we're doing this is not sustainable for where we're going. So instead of asking, how do I push harder to make this dream happen? Start asking, what would that version of me who can hold this next level with ease do differently right now? And I would suspect that she doesn't do everything herself. She definitely doesn't earn rest only after you have nothing else left to give, right? She isn't available to be the emotional first responder for absolutely everybody at all the time. And I know that I'm very guilty of absorbing other people's emotional responses to situations, let's say. Practically, that might look like letting something be good instead of perfect. Hiring the help you've been telling yourself that you're going to do, but you're not ready, for example. Being honest with your partner or your team that you're at capacity right at this moment in time. And the other thing that I find is really important is scheduling recovery with the same seriousness that you would schedule a finance meeting, for example. Your dream doesn't need to be a more exhausted version of you. I would say it needs to be a more resourced version of you. So if you're exhausted and still dreaming, don't kill the dream, change the way that you're holding it. You're allowed to build something big and feel great in the process, not just good.
So I think that is beautiful. And, there's times where we're dreaming big, we're pursuing, we're going forward, but things throw us off our game. So Disha, what throws you off your game?
Oh, Brittany, it's my hormones or lack of them. Let's see. It's that mid sentence shut off because of brain fog that totally throws me off. Like, I have a great stream of things that are going to come out my brain and they just stop. It's genius.
Okay, so here, this is like very candid insight for our listeners, but Disha and I both will be like, we'll voice note each other back and forth because, that's the best way to have just a conversation all day long, is just like these back and forths. And there are times both of us, like literally mid sentence, it's like, I have no recollection of where I was going with this. Hang up, try again.
Yep.
Oh my
Totally.
gosh. That's probably a whole other episode, is hormone expert, bringing somebody on to talk about that. So if you are listening and you are that woman that is an expert, like, reach out, because let's talk. Help us. Help us. Okay. So as we round this out, what is the hill that you would die on when it comes to female founders?
Think bigger. Always think bigger than you are right now. 10x it if you have to. What I find with female founders is they don't think big enough because they get to that point of, do I continue with my dream or do I kill it? And then they kill it or they self sabotage. Don't do that. Think bigger and keep going.
I love that. So, Disha, there was just so much genius and brilliance and humble insight in everything you shared. And, to kind of wrap this up and round us out, I have to say, if you haven't caught this yourself listening in, what I absolutely adore and love most about Disha is that she doesn't just listen, she truly receives you. So, I'm sitting here listening, and I know darn well there are women out there listening to this that are like, I've never felt more seen, heard, and understood than in what Disha just shared in this episode. She has this rare ability to really hold space in a way that makes you feel braver, softer, clearer, and more honest all at the same time. She helps you see this version of yourself that you've been trying to grow into, and somehow she makes it feel like it's inevitable. Like, oh no, it's just going to happen. And we don't have doubt. Like, no, we're not doing that. We're moving forward. Disha does not lead with ego, with intensity, or with loud noise. She leads with true depth and with intention and with this level of care that reminds you what real connection actually feels like. So every woman who gets to sit in her orbit walks away just a little bit more grounded, a little bit more hopeful, and a lot more aligned with who she's truly meant to be. So that, my friends, is the magic of Disha. She makes you feel seen in a world that constantly asks you to hide. And I am endlessly grateful for the way that she shows up, not just for this community, but selfishly for myself too. So Disha, thank you for that insight. And if you're listening and you felt seen and you felt heard today, then keep tuning in because there's so much more.
If this episode supported you, share it with a woman you respect and want to lift up.
Join our free Trailblazers community, the space where high-achieving women finally feel met.
You'll find the link in the show notes.
Until next time, keep moving forward, keep listening to yourself.
And remember, you deserve support too.